Right, I just want to talk about the modify tools, which I didn't cover in the other tutorial. So if you look at this, you can see that the edges are pretty rough. So sometimes you want to make a better job of that. So sometimes you don't, like these splatters, fine. But maybe you want to make this a little bit smoother. So what you can do is alter the selection. So if you hold down the command key, which is next to your spacebar key, and just click on the thumbnail, that'll reload it. Alternatively, be on the layer you want to reload and go select load selection. So the shortcut is just to hold down the command key and click, and it'll reload, or do it by there. Yes, you have a question?
Command key, not space. Did you say space earlier?
Oh, it's next to the space key.
Next to the space key.
Yeah, the command key. Yeah. So that's just a shortcut, and you'll see that when you hit the command key, it slightly changes. So you can see the little hand, and when you click, it just reloads it. So you click with the mouse, and that's a shortcut. If you can't remember the shortcut, it's in this select menu, and it's just load selection. That's all we're doing. Yeah, it's just a shortcut for it, which you can learn. To deselect is Command D, and again, if you can't remember shortcuts, if that's a bit challenging, under the select menu you can see you've got deselect, and it's just that Command D. So a lot of the shortcuts, it tells you them here if you want to learn them. That's just such a common one that it is worth learning it. But the load selection one is a different thing. You actually have to go, and if you want to do the shortcut, use the command key and just click on the thumbnail, not out here, on the actual thumbnail. Click once with the mouse, and then it should load. Otherwise, go through the select menu. Nothing wrong with doing that. And deselect Command D. So once you've got that active selection, we want to fix it up a little bit. Under the select menu, you've got some things you can do. So you've got this modify. So if I want to get rid of and smooth this, I forgot to tell you guys this, but so this is why I'm doing it now. You really need to contract the selection in a little bit, so that then you can get rid of that outside stuff. So I'm going to contract the selection in by 10 pixels, just so you can see what's happening. Can you see how now that's inside a little bit? It's inside, not outside. And then I could also smooth the selection at this point. So I could add a little bit of smoothing to it. Maybe 5, just a little bit. Now I'll have some smoother lines, and they've also moved in a bit. Now I can go select inverse, and it's now got everything outside of that selection. I hit the delete key, and now I've gotten rid of those really rough edges. And Command D deselect. You can see the edges are just a little bit less rough. I could keep going with it. So it's just select. I want to move the selection in a bit. So it's modify, contract. You can see contract or expand, and you can also feather. So I'll contract it a bit, just maybe 5 pixels. So you can see it's just moved in a little bit, and then I'll do a little bit of instead of deleting that outside bit, I'm going to just feather it a bit. So feathering will make a fairly soft edge. I'll do it quite extremely so you can kind of see it. And when I select inverse now, which is that outside, and let go of it, you can see I've now got a much softer edge. So it's a feathered edge. So when you're combining images, and this particularly applies if you're trying to put a realistic photo into a background and they don't match, and you've got this jaggedy edge, you've really got to feather that selection so it looks good. So I'm making a video of this, so I'll stop now. But maybe I'll do it one more time so you just get the idea. I'll do it with another one. So you can see that the edges of this figure are pretty rough. So I'm going to load that as a selection, and I'm going to go to the select, modify, I'm going to contract it a bit, which will move it in, and I'll do it again a bit more extremely so you can see 10 pixels. See how far it's moved in? And I can either just inverse it and select and get rid of it, or what would probably be better if I want a softer effect is to then add a feather. And again, I'm doing it fairly extremely. You can do this very subtly, 20 pixels. And now when I select inverse and delete, oops, I'm on the wrong layer. You can see I've got that soft, I probably did it too much. All right, I did 20 pixels, that's a lot. But you can see that it makes a softer edge. So that's feathering, as opposed to not feathering and just selecting the inverse and deleting. Oops, getting myself confused. Oh, so that's still got the feather on it. So I'll have to undo and go back a few steps. Okay, so I'll do it again. Load my selection, select, modify, contract it inwards a bit, maybe 6 pixels. So it's moved in a little bit. And I could also smooth it a little bit at this point. So I could add a little bit of smoothing to it. So it's slightly better line, slightly less jaggy. And again, I've got to select the inverse because it's that outside area I want to delete or feather. Sorry, I'm just recording. So select inverse and then delete. And can you see how that's now removed that rough edge, and it's a little smoother than it was before. So it's a bit of a step thing. You've got to contract it in. Remember what you're doing, select inverse for what you want to get rid of, or if you want to do something a bit more subtle, like I've done there, a slight feather is really nice in terms of joining foregrounds and backgrounds together and not having a harsh edge. So I've done it fairly, large pixel amount, but if you do it not so extreme, so I'll do it a little bit more subtly. So I'm going to contract it. This time I'll do something more subtle, like 4 pixels. So it's only moved in a little bit, and that's more like what you would do for feathering. So I'm feathering the edge. Instead of 20 pixels, let's just do what's more typical, like 5. And then I've got to remember I've got to select inverse and then delete. And you can see Command DD, so that you can see that's now a nice soft edge. So you can do it as little as 3 pixels, and it'll make a difference to how harsh the image you're trying to join in with another image looks. And we're doing this with drawings and paintings, but you could be doing this with photos, and it becomes very important with photos. Otherwise, things just look weird. They really look cut and pasted like a kiddie's thing. They don't look very professional. Anyway, so I'll stop there and just have a go if you feel like your image needs feathering. In the case of the splatters, I don't think this person needs to feather it because they actually want this kind of expressive edge. That's absolutely fine. It's meant to be like that. But other bits, like perhaps the watercolour bit, they could do with being feathered. So anyway, so I'll turn that off. Okay, stop recording.